viewers, or welcome if it's the first time that you are watching my YouTube channel, My Paranormal and Mystery TV. What I'm going to make you watch today: related scenes from Jurassic Park film released in 1993. And the videos and the footage. Then I'm going to make you watch the darkest secrets during the shooting of the film Jurassic Park 1993. And to talk about, in the end, a controversy about the Jurassic Park film, because there is a scene that all the viewers who went to the cinema as soon as the film was released in 1993 remind a scene that it is said it was never shot. Is it a case of Mandela effect? So, Jurassic Park film was released in 1993 and the director is one of the greatest directors ever, Steven Spielberg. The film lasts 2 hours and 7 minutes. Based on the novel Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton, who then he became the screenwriter of Jurassic Park film with the other screenwriter David Coep, starring, I want to remind with very great love and affection, because it was a shock when I got to know that Sam Neill passed away at only 78 last July, suddenly in Sydney. He won his fight against cancer. He died on July the 13th, 2026. He played the role of the unforgettable Alan Grant, but for all the people who say that Sam Neill was famous just because he played the role of Alan Grant in Jurassic Park movie, it's not right, because he shot almost all the kinds of movies, but he did more horror film, like for example, he played the third chapter of the saga The Omen. The name of the movie was The Final Conflict, released in 1981, in which he played the role of Damien, the diabolical Damien Thorne grown up, and his play was really stunning. But he also did other movies, like for example Dead Calm, In the Mouth of Madness by the mythical John Carpenter. And for example, Snow White, A Tale of Terror, in which he played the role of the father of Snow White. In the movie there was also the mythical Sigourney Weaver. And he didn't only play it in the first chapter, Jurassic Park, but also in Jurassic Park 3, released in 2001. Jurassic World Dominion, released in 2022. And I want also to remind you an horror movie like Daybreakers. Then we have Laura Dern playing the role of Ellie Sattler. The mythical Jeff Goldblum playing the role of Ian Malcolm. Sir Richard Attenborough. He was the mythical, unforgettable John Hammond. And this great actor died in London on August the 24th in 2014 at 90. Then we have Bob Peck, who played the role of Robert Muldoon. Unfortunately, this actor passed away too much young because he died from a cancer in 1999 at only 53. Then we have Martin Ferrero, who played the role of Donald Gennaro. His death on the toilet, eaten by the T-Rex, is one of the most iconic death scenes of history in the cinema. And then we have the mythical Samuel Jackson, who played the role of Ray Arnold. Wayne Knight, who played the role of Dennis Nedry. Joseph Mazzello, who played the role of Tim Murphy, and Ariana Richards, who played the role of Lex Murphy. The soundtrack, the mythical soundtrack, was by John Williams. The film was shot at Hawaiian Island, Kauai, and Oahu, in California, in Costa Rica, and in the Dominican Republic. It was released at the cinema on June the 11th, 1993 in the United States. Immediately, it got an extraordinary success. It won 3 Oscars: Best Visual Effects, Best Sound, and Best Sound Editing. Jurassic Park is the first one of a franchise. Then there had been many sequels. Then we have The Lost World, Jurassic Park, released in 1997, always directed by Steven Spielberg. Then we have Jurassic Park 3, released in 2001. Director is not Steven Spielberg, but Joe Johnston. Spielberg was the executive producer. Then we have, many years later, Jurassic World, released in 2015. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, released in 2018. Jurassic World Dominion, released in 2022. And Jurassic World Rebirth, released in 2024. 5. Jurassic Park in 2018, Jurassic Park film 1993, was selected for preservation in the National Film Registry of the United States by the Library of Congress as culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. That when Jurassic Park was released at the cinema in 1993, I went to the cinema. I was a little girl. I was under 10 years. And personally, I don't remember this scene. It is said that all the people went to the cinema, like me, I don't remind this scene, say to remind a scene, and they are convinced that this scene was made scene at the cinema and then deleted. It could be the Mandela effect. Do you know what the Mandela effect is? The Mandela effect is a psychological phenomenon where a large group of people collectively share a false memory. It is called the Mandela effect because many people had, fortunately, the wrong memory that South Africa leader Nelson Mandela died in prison in the 80s. Fortunately, it wasn't so. Mandela was released in 1990, became president, and died in 2013. And now, are you ready? Warning! Some images could disturb the sensitivity of the viewers. I start with the deleted scenes.
Ray Arnold's death scene. We all know Ray Arnold in the movie. He's the guy who says, "Hold on to your butts," constantly chain smoking, and the guy who can't hack into Nedry's PC. But we also remember he's the guy who first goes to the maintenance shed and never returns, only to give Ellie a lovely pat on the back. Now, there was an entire sequence that was meant to be filmed showing his death. We would potentially got to see how Arnold would have lost his arm and his leg, because believe it or not, there was a sequence that Ellie would actually stumble over his corpse. That's how she ends up with the twisted ankle we see.
They say they couldn't shoot the entire death of Ray Arnold because
when the hurricane actually struck. The footage you see of all the waves and rain hitting the island, that's actual real-life footage of them on the island and the hurricane. They flew all the actors off the island, and because they were so strapped for time, they couldn't fly half of them back. So Samuel L. Jackson wasn't flown back to shoot that scene. They decided to cut it entirely. Triceratops had been eaten, but they were also eating berries, which caused them to be sick. This resolution was present in the novel, although the scene involved a stegosaurus instead of a triceratops. It's likely that this scene was cut because it was too disgusting to conclude with Ellie's arm deep in Triceratops poo finding them stones. It's also worth noting that the baby Triceratops scene was also supposed to take place around this time. This scene was also cut last minute after Stan Winston Studios produced the model for use. I mean, they literally made the model, they just didn't use it. But they did use that exact same model in the Lost World Jurassic Park when Nick and Sarah freed the dinosaurs from the hunters. Now this one is extremely interesting, probably one of my favourite on the list, although there's one at the very end which is my personal favourite. But this one's still pretty close, and it is the Robert Muldoon Velociraptor attack sequence. Now I know we all love Robert Muldoon and we love the clever girl scene. I mean, it's my outro for every single video. But there's an entire sequence filmed that was just too gruesome to even keep in the entire film. We all know the scene where Robert Muldoon is trying to hunt down the pack of velociraptors only to be hunted by them himself. And the last sequence is where the velociraptor pounces on him. Now, there was an entire scene shot here where there was going to be blood, gore, effects, and we actually see the Velociraptor basically digging into Muldoon. Now, they couldn't show this on screen and had to use foliage to try and cover up the attack sequence.
The movie was really horror, and Spielberg didn't want restrictions. Another footage of the death with the velociraptor that was going to eat, to dismember the victim, and as you can see, it was deleted because so the movie wouldn't be rated. But I would have liked to watch the film uncut.
The young girl on a remote beach encountering a strange striped lizard-like creature that moved oddly and made bird-like sounds. The animal bites her, leaving her seriously ill. Later, when asked to draw what attacked her, she sketches a dinosaur. This beach attack was later adapted for the opening of The Lost World, Jurassic Park, but it was removed entirely from the 1993 film. Together, in this sequence, Dr. Grant and Dr. Sattler shared some quiet moments that hinted at a possible romance while examining the Velociraptor skeletons in detail. The scene also helped establish the characters and gave subtle clues about the Velociraptor's intelligence, foreshadowing their pack hunting behavior seen later in the film. There's even a mention of the Tenontosaurus, just as in the novel. This scene was likely cut to maintain the story's pacing. When the group first arrives on the island, there was actually a small scene that was also removed from the film. Ellie Sattler was supposed to stretch her hand out of the jeep to pluck a leaf from an extinct plant. You can even spot this moment in the very first trailer, but in the end, it was cut, probably because it didn't add much to the pacing. Still, it would have explained where Ellie suddenly got the leaf she later examines, while Grant is staring in awe at the Brachiosaurus. It's a little detail, but it really highlighted her passion for paleobotany. Another extended sequence answered a question the movie never really touches on. Why are Hammond's grandkids even in the park? In the deleted version, Hammond explains that Tim and Lex's parents are going through a divorce, so the kids are visiting the island to get away from the situation. Even Malcolm throws in a sarcastic remark about it. Footage, photos, and even a behind-the-scenes recording of this deleted scene still exist, confirming it was actually filmed, and here you can see that behind-the-scenes footage of the moment.
I know, not a good idea. I know, but have a heart, gentlemen. The parents are getting divorced. Now, need a wee diversion.
Originally, this same sequence also included the Ford Explorers slowly driving out of an underground garage, curving around before parking in front of the visitor center. It looked cool, but in the end it was cut, most likely to keep the movie moving at a faster pace. During Ellie's tense journey to the maintenance shed, there were some moments that were also cut. One of them apparently involved a scene where a velociraptor grabs Ellie while she tries to restore the power, which would have left her badly injured, probably why it was cut. There was also a longer version of the scene where Muldoon and Ellie head to the shed to check on Arnold and fix the power. Parts of this sequence can still be seen in the behind-the-scenes footage on the Beyond Jurassic Park DVD, but it was likely trimmed to keep the pacing smooth. Finally, there's an alternate take of Ellie reuniting with Dr. Grant. In this version, she shouts at him to run to the bunker and asks about the kids. The behind-the-scenes clips even show her screams and hint at a brief kiss between Ellie and Grant. A sweet little moment that didn't make it into the final film.
Go up to.
The cast are equally concerned with the morality of what could happen if a Jurassic Park were ever created.
It's the creation that's...
Another deleted scene from Jurassic Park was recently discovered after going unnoticed for decades. A prop collector named Mark Bushy found a set of rare publicity photos on eBay dated March 2nd, 1993. At first, they looked like ordinary behind-the-scenes images, but one photo revealed something very unusual. In the image, you can clearly see the legs of a Brachiosaurus up close, a scene that was never shown in the final film. This photograph appears to be evidence of a deleted moment described in early versions of the script. In that scene, Dr. Alan Grant mistakes what he believes is the trunk of a tree, but seconds later, the tree suddenly moves. Grant then realizes that it isn't a tree at all, it's the leg of a massive Brachiosaurus. This moment was known from early scripts and storyboards, but until this discovery, there was no visual proof it was ever filmed. The scene was likely removed because Steven Spielberg wanted the Brachiosaurus reveal to remain emotional and majestic. Still, this single photo suggests the scene went beyond the script. And discoveries like this raise an exciting question. How many other lost Jurassic Park scenes are still out there waiting to be found? In the Jurassic Park novel, John Hammond meets a dark and unsettling fate. After falling down a hill and breaking his ankle, he tries to call for help, only to be surrounded by a pack of Procompsognathus. These small carnivorous dinosaurs quickly overwhelm him, bringing a brutal end to the park's creator. For the film adaptation, the creative team explored several alternate death scenes for Hammond, though none appeared in the storyboard. From a planned death scene shows Hammond panicking after discovering a dead velociraptor inside the visitor center. He trips over a bone and becomes trapped beneath the Tyrannosaurus Rex skeleton. As he struggles to escape, a group of Procompsognathus swarm him, similar to the novel, and ultimately end his life. Another concept placed Hammond inside the theater where the Mr. DNA video plays. Alone and disoriented, he is attacked by a velociraptor that silently enters the room and knocks him down as its screams echo through the empty space. A different storyboard shows Hammond trying to save dinosaur embryos by carrying an incubator. During his escape, a velociraptor blocks his path, slams him against a miniature park model, and drives its claw into his chest, killing him instantly. Another proposed ending was more symbolic. Hammond is left alone on the island and spots a rescue helicopter in the distance. As he signals for help, a herd of Brachiosaurus moves between him and the aircraft, blocking the pilot's view. The helicopter flies away, leaving Hammond stranded in the park he created.
Look at these two scenes of the two velociraptors in the kitchen. Only one of the two was chosen.
Footage and credits showing raptors and T-Rex moving in that style, but while the stop motion looked good, it was realistic enough for Steven Spielberg. The movements felt too mechanical and limited for this level of realism. That's when the team at Industrial Light and Magic stepped in and experimenting with a new and risky technology, computer imaging.
And here a controversy. The legendary Raft River attack. Was it really shot or not?
There's a legendary river raft sequence in Michael Crichton's novel Dr. Grant.
In the novel there was this incredible scene.
This was planned for the film taking place the day after the dinosaurs escape.
The scene has never been shot, so why? There are still rumors about this scene. This is the reason why the scene couldn't be shot, because the T-Rex watch.
Screenwriter David Kerr realized the scene would be nearly impossible to film. The T-Rex animatronic wouldn't get wet.
The animatronic T-Rex couldn't be wet, and then I will show you when he got wet in other circumstances what really happened. Now the extended version of the ending when T-Rex eats velociraptors and the controversial scene.
Park fans. For years, people have claimed that during the original theatrical run, the T-Rex actually smashes through a wall inside the visitor center.
And here a footage of another controversy, because they told you that they couldn't shoot the death of Ray Arnold, played by Samuel Jackson, because it happened that horrific hurricane, and they couldn't shoot the death scene of Ray Arnold. But why this footage? It is said that something more was shot. Not the entire death of Ray Arnold, but something more that later has been deleted. Other deleted scenes.
Covering of the Velociraptor skeletons was originally much more extended and introduced to our characters through much more rigative dialogue, with Ellie and Alan providing an explanation as to how these specific raptors were killed off, with a prime focus towards the raptor claw, and would be the same claw that would appear throughout the movie. A couple of scenes later, where Ellie and Alan were discussing about kids, there was initially a kiss between the both of them, showing that both characters were romantically involved with one another. This shot was sneakily trimmed down by cutting to a shot of the helicopter, then cutting back to the characters. Cunning-eyed viewers had noted that you can tell both characters are slightly further up the hill. Although at least comparing both shots, you can't really tell where they are on the hill. At least I don't personally notice the incongruity. After the exhibit tour, where the scientists want to see the hatching lab, Alan rushes to the door first, forcefully trying to get it open. Donald the lawyer tries to convince Hammond to not let them on in, and as the scene prevails when Alan holds the raptor, Ellie and Malcolm have an extensive conversation, upon Malcolm's early comment of how life finds a way.
And about the divorce of the parents of Tim and Lex, this is also this other deleted scene. Watch.
To leave early. He wants to be with his daughter. She's getting a divorce.
Well, I understand that, but we've been advised to deal with the situation now.
And this scene was more bloody. Watch. You must know that the novel by Michael Crichton was more horrific than Jurassic Park film 1993. And Steven Spielberg decided to exclude this horrific scene. Watch.
Confirmed by John Bell's concept art and storyboards. Some of these ideas were extremely dark and were seriously considered during development. In the novel, there is a shocking scene where a group of small dinosaurs called Procompsognathus surround a newborn inside a Costa Rican clinic. Spielberg and his team considered adapting this moment, but with one major change. Instead of compies, the attackers would have been baby velociraptors sneaking into the nursery, surrounding the crib and lunging toward the infant. Ultimately, Spielberg removed the sequence because it was considered too disturbing and would have dramatically changed the tone of the film. Still, the fact that it was discussed shows how close the movie came to being much darker and more horror-focused.
And now, the darkest secrets, the darkest facts happened during the shooting of Jurassic Park and curiosities. I start with the softer ones until the darkest ones. Watch.
June of 1993, the entire planet had one assignment: get to a movie theater. When Jurassic Park opened to $47 million, it didn't politely break the box office record. It stomped it into the mud, blew past Batman Returns, and rewrote what a big opening even meant. Adjusted for today, that's roughly a $100 million debut on tickets that cost as much as whatever's currently buried in your couch cushions. And for one summer, everyone was watching the same movie. There were no algorithms, no spoilers, and no streaming. Just one film dominating every conversation at every water cooler and every high school cafeteria in America. 1993 learned the same lesson the hard way. If something in Jurassic Park looks friendly, you're already in trouble. The Dilophosaurus doesn't roar, doesn't stomp, it just tilts its head, makes a friendly little chirp, and then permanently rewires your trust in small creatures. But the version we saw on screen was basically a sci-fi monster wearing a dinosaur costume. The venom? There's zero scientific evidence that any dinosaur could spit venom. That was Crichton's invention. The vibrating neck frill is completely fabricated as well, inspired by the modern frilled lizards. And the size? In real life, Dilophosaurus was over 20 feet long. The movie version was deliberately shrunk so it wouldn't be confused with the raptors. Spielberg wanted it to feel harmless, the kind of thing you'd walk toward with your hand out right up until you deeply regretted it. Even the sounds were designed to create a false sense of safety. That little hooting noise before the attack, it was designed to make you relax, just long enough to stop paying attention. We all remember that moment. Nedry slipping in the mud, the glasses, the slow realization that this wasn't a gag, it was a nightmare wearing a smile. It's the reason that to this day, none of us trust anything that looks like it wants to play fetch. Okay.
Stan Winston's team built a full-size Tyrannosaurus Rex animatronic that was absolutely massive. The T-Rex stood 20 feet tall and stretched 40 feet long from head to tail. It weighed approximately 12,000 pounds, which is over 6 tons. Some reports put the weight even higher at 13,000 to 15,000 pounds. The dinosaur was so enormous that Stan Winston had to buy the building next door to his studio. Then he had to raise the roof by 13 feet just to have enough space to build it. The T-Rex had 57 different functions and movements, all controlled by hydraulics, except for the eyes, which were radio controlled. The crew needed to have serious safety meetings about how to use it properly and avoid getting hurt. If anyone got stuck under it, or it fell on someone, could easily kill them. During construction, there was even a scary moment when the studio had a blackout while a crew member was inside the animatronic. All the metal internal parts shifted and put him in grave danger. Fortunately, the crew was able to pry open the jaws and rescue him before he got seriously injured. The sheer size of the T-Rex meant filming any scenes with it required days or even weeks of planning to execute safely. Fact 5. The famous T-Rex attack scene happens during a rainstorm, which created huge problems. Stan Winston's team built the T-Rex with foam rubber skin that looked incredibly realistic, but nobody told them the dinosaur would be filmed in the rain. The foam rubber soaked up water like a giant sponge. The T-Rex absorbed so much artificial rain that it became 3 or 4 times heavier than normal. Under all that extra water weight, the animatronic started shaking and shuddering uncontrollably, like it was cold or frightened. Producer Kathleen Kennedy said the T-Rex went into the heebie-jeebies sometimes and scared everyone. People would be eating lunch when suddenly the T-Rex would come alive on its own. At first, nobody knew what was happening. Then they realized it was the rain causing the malfunctions. Between takes, Winston's entire team had to run to the T-Rex and start mopping it off with towels. They used blow dryers and fans for hours, squeezing out the water. There was even a night shift crew that came in just to continue drying the T-Rex so it would be ready for the next day. The water absorption also made the dinosaur look fatter around the middle. The CGI animators had to digitally fatten up the T-Rex in the distance shots to match how pudgy it looked when soaked.
And here the genius of Jeff Goldblum. I absolutely agree with his choice.
Very heroic character at all. In the early script drafts for the movie, he wasn't supposed to be heroic either. During the T-Rex attack scene, Malcolm was written to just run away and hide like a coward, similar to the lawyer character Gennaro. But Jeff Goldblum had a different idea for the character. It was Goldblum's suggestion to make Malcolm more heroic by having him distract the T-Rex to protect the others. He wanted Malcolm to take off his jacket and use it to draw the dinosaur's attention away from the kids. Spielberg loved this idea and changed the scene. This made Malcolm much more likable and turned him into one of the most popular characters in the franchise. Goldblum's instinct to add bravery to Malcolm changed everything about how audiences viewed him. Instead of being just a sarcastic mathematician, he became a hero who risks his life for others. This character change is why Malcolm returned in the Lost World sequel and became such an iconic part of Jurassic Park. Goldblum's performance combined with his suggestion created a character that fans loved. It shows how actors can sometimes understand their characters better than what's written on the page. One simple idea.
And now let's dive into the darkest, disturbing facts during the shooting of Jurassic Park 1993.
Explain the chaos.
The
T-Rex
producer.
went into the heebie-jeebies sometimes. Scared the crap out of us. We'd be eating lunch, and all of a sudden a T-Rex would come alive. At first, we didn't know what was happening, and then we realized it was the rain. You'd hear people start screaming. The crew had to station people with towels and blow dryers between takes, frantically drying off a giant robotic dinosaur. Land twitches and shudders made the T-Rex feel alive, unpredictable, dangerous, and like the genius that he is, Spielberg kept them in. What could have ruined the scene instead created one of the most terrifying movie monsters ever filmed. The happy accident turns out to be a blessing in disguise, turning the malfunction into a brilliant moment nobody could have foreseen before. As a kid, the T-Rex gave me goosebumps more than ghosts in horror movies ever did. I realize now it's because the terror was actually terrifying in real life, not just some movie magic stuff. Oh,
this creepy, unplanned accident.
moment that elevated the terror. The animatronic was designed to break through the Explorer's sunroof and menace the kids inside. But during filming, the massive robot came down harder and more aggressively than expected. The plexiglass cracked under the pressure, and the 12,000-pound machine got closer to the child actors than anyone planned.
It's a unit system. I know this.
Joseph Mazzello and Ariana Richards screams in that moment, and Spielberg saw gold in the take. The unexpected intensity, the genuine startled reactions. It all stayed in the film, even the T-Rex.
This number, September the 11th, always brings misfortune, like in this case, this terrible real hurricane.
1992, Hurricane Iniki, a Category 4 storm, slammed into Kauai on what was supposed to be the final day of location shooting. The cast and crew were trapped in their hotel as 145 miles per hour winds tore the island apart. But Spielberg, being Spielberg, grabbed a camera.
The hurricane hit dead on. The landfall was our hotel, and it was a Category 5 hurricane, sustained winds of 165 miles an hour with gusts to 185. And the hurricane lasted for 9 hours.
Before the worst of the storm hit, he and cinematographer Dean Cundy rushed to the beach and filmed the massive waves building offshore. That real hurricane footage? It's in the movie. The storm hitting Isla Nublar isn't just movie rain and wind machines. It's actual Category 4 hurricane conditions, adding visceral authenticity you can't fake. The crew later received I Survived Hurricane Iniki t-shirts. The hurricane caused $3.1 billion in damage, and remains the costliest natural disaster in Hawaiian history. Production shut down, sets were destroyed, and plans changed. But Spielberg turned a disaster into an asset. The storm scenes feel real because they are real. No amount.
Another disturbing fact.
This dangerous moment came from a malfunction. The raptors in the kitchen were a mix of men in suits, puppets, and animatronics. The suits were brutally uncomfortable. Operators bent at 90-degree angles, controlling the heads with rods while the eyes and claws were operated remotely. During one take, a raptor chasing Joseph Mazzello lost control. The claw mechanism malfunctioned and struck him in the head. He was fine, but the moment captured real danger. The raptors weren't just scary looking. They were legitimately dangerous to work with. And that danger translated to the screen.
Fortunately, a very good curiosity and sexy.
Alright, here's the moment you've been waiting for. The most memed moment in the movie wasn't in the script. You know the image. Jeff Goldblum, shirtless. Shirt open, leaning back in wounded glory after being attacked by the T-Rex. Goldblum confirmed in a Vanity Fair interview. It wasn't in the script. It had nothing to do with my character. It had nothing to do with the movie. I don't know, it just happened somehow.
Let's talk about your open shirt.
What about it? It wasn't in the script, had nothing to do with my character, had nothing to do with the movie. I don't know, it just happened somehow.
He tried to rationalize it later. I had heroically saved the kids by distracting the T-Rex. After eating the lawyer on the toilet, he bumped me, and my leg is in some condition. And I guess we're in Costa Rica, and I guess it's hot. Goldblum couldn't even remember later if it was his idea or Spielberg's. He just did it in the moment. Nobody stopped him. Fast forward to 2020, and he's recreating the pose at 67 to get people to vote. But really, Goldblum just did Goldblum. That pose became an internet icon, endlessly parodied and referenced. Spielberg kept it in because it was perfectly, weirdly, iconically Jeff Goldblum. It's oddly sexy in a campy way amidst all the PG-rated wholesomeness, something that the internet always gleefully embraces. Pure improvisation.
Jeff Goldblum, really a god of beauty. And now let's return into the dark secrets.
Iconic T-Rex breakout scene. The animatronic dinosaur kept malfunctioning because of the rain pouring onto the set. The crew dumped thousands of gallons of water to create the storm, and the Rex's latex skin absorbed it like a sponge, gaining weight with every take. Between takes, the dinosaur started moving on its own, shaking and twitching in the darkness without operator input. Stan Winston's team worked frantically between takes to drain water from the mechanical creature. Spielberg loved the unintended movement so much he kept some of the autonomous shuddering in the final cut. Ariana Richards and Joseph Mazzello's terrified reactions became more authentic as the malfunctioning Rex moved unpredictably. Cinematographer Dean Cundy captured the creature's genuine struggle on film. Is a retractable neck frill and venom-spitting ability purely for dramatic effect. There's zero fossil evidence supporting either trait. Paleontologists have no reason to believe these dinosaurs possess defensive frills or toxic saliva. Spielberg simply thought it made the creature scarier and more visually interesting than a standard predator. Phil Tippett, the dinosaur supervisor, helped design the creature's unique characteristics. The frill added surprise, while the venom added danger. The combination created a monster distinct from the other dinosaurs populating the park. Paleontologist Jack Horner, who served as the film's technical advisor, has spent decades correcting people who assume the movie version reflects scientific reality, but accuracy wasn't the goal. Spielberg needed a kill scene that felt different from the T-Rex or raptors.
This is really creepy. When T-Rex
smashes through the plexiglass roof of the Ford Explorer, that wasn't supposed to happen. The animatronic malfunctioned and came down harder than planned, cracking the protective barrier between dinosaur and children with far more force than rehearsed. Ariana Richards' piercing scream is completely authentic. She genuinely believes she was about to be crushed by 12,000 pounds of malfunctioning machinery built by Stan Winston's crew. Joseph Mazzello's terror was equally real as he struggled to protect his screen sister. Spielberg recognized the genuine fear immediately and kept the take in the final cut assembled by editor Michael Kahn. The moment works because the danger was partially real and the kids weren't acting.
And now it has come the time of the controversial scene.
3. It stayed in theaters for an unusually long amount of time. Since it kept making so much money, there wasn't really any real reason to get it out of the cinemas once it proved to be a massive hit. So the VHS release actually didn't happen until October of 1994. But when Jurassic Park finally did make the jump to home video, a big criticism began to circulate around the world. These complaints stemmed from the belief that the version we all got on video was not identical to the one that many people saw in theaters, and that the movie had instead been altered by removing a very memorable scene. This scene would have taken place towards the end of the film during the raptor attack. For 2 decades now, people have continued to insist that a portion of the film where the Tyrannosaur rams its head through the wall of the visitor center was taken out of the home video cut. First-hand accounts from people who vividly remembered the scene describe it as being the answer to how the Rex was able to get into the building undetected. Apparently, this is due to every other scene depicting its feet being incredibly heavy and noticeably loud by characters on screen. The rumor is that the raptor would pounce for Grant and the others just before the T-Rex would burst through the building's wall and grab it in midair. So, is this really true? Did this scene in fact exist in the original version of the film? And were we all deprived of having it in the final release that was sold on VHS in the 90s? Well, let's take a look at the movie as it exists today. If we go back to the ending of the original Jurassic Park, we can see that the scene in which the Velociraptor is caught by the Tyrannosaur is done in a way that doesn't really permit any explicit cuts. Had Spielberg chosen to cut away to something like a head being rammed through a wall at this time, I think it would look kind of jarring in the middle of a raptor attack scene. But of course, that's not really enough to say that the scene doesn't exist. However, pouncing raptors, Spielberg actually shows us a full body reveal of the Tyrannosaur while it's inside of the visitor center. And it's here where we can see that the dinosaur made its way into the building the same way the second raptor did.
is simply walked through a hanging tarp that was covering up the hole in the unfinished wall. And when we're looking back to this particular scene in the movie, it is pretty obvious that there isn't much of a wall for the Tyrannosaur to even break at the end of the film. Furthermore, ILM artist Stephen Williams, who actually worked on Jurassic Park, has commented on the scene in question before in the past. He himself insisting that the Rex breaking through the rotunda scene was never created and therefore never existed in the movie. So
I was at the cinema and personally I don't remember that scene that the other fans of Jurassic Park talk about. But I was under 10 years old, so in my opinion, I don't know. I won.
False memory, better known on the internet as a Mandela effect. Now, a Mandela effect is basically just when a lot of people remember something wrong, like Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 1980s. Sometimes it can happen a lot with modern audiences for movies, but most of the time, rumored scenes being cut like this are pretty much too far-fetched to really be real. That being
So, see you soon at the next mysteries. Stay tuned.